Alright, I'm going to make a video that's pretty personal about anxiety, because I know there's millions and millions of people that suffer from anxiety, and I still do struggle with it from time to time. But over the last 10 years, 15 really, since my dad died, I had a really traumatic experience when he was killed in a car accident, taken from us, whenever I was 19. I never really dealt with anxiety before that, but I'm on my way here to go do some hunting, and my thoughts are forming, and I'm listening to some music, and I'm just sitting here thinking, I've had a little bit of anxiety this week because of COVID. I had some exposure to it. I feel fine, but I had some exposure to it, and there's just been this thought in the back of my mind all week, and on the drive up even a little bit, that I've had to battle, and it's, are you going to get sick? Are you going to get sick when you're in the tree stand? Are you going to start having a fever? And I've had to, over time, learn to build up my fortress in my mind, kind of like the movie Inception a little bit, my subconscious warriors. And it's all about, you have different beasts in your mind. And I've thought about this huge, massive beast that basically just attacks the demons in my mind. I come up with this alternate world that exists within my subconscious, and it's physically attacking negative thoughts. I imagine this huge beast that is like a wolf, like a werewolf type of a creature, and it's the positivity beast. And I just think that so often anxiety is linked to the negative thoughts that come into our minds, and then we feed those thoughts. You can't feed the thoughts. You cannot feed it. That's what makes it so bad. Whenever I first started dealing with this, I would feed those thoughts, and then I would have physical reactions to it. I would have a tense chest. Sometimes I've gotten heartburn. Your mind is making your body feel icky, which creates more anxiety. And meditation, that's why I love hunting, because I meditate in the tree stand, quiet, peaceful. I've learned to meditate, and it clears my mind. It clears those negative thoughts. Those, some people call them negative entities. And I've developed there's like I have this world in my mind that I let it play out whenever I start to feel a little anxious about. I have this guard that guards my fight or flight button. It's like a panic button in my mind that I envision. And all too often we press that button. We allow our minds to press it, I guess. Our subconscious. We allow it to engage that switch. And if you look at it like, again, I love that movie Inception, because it's all about the subconscious and guarding yourself against intruders. But those thoughts, those negative thoughts, are intruders, and you have to guard your mind against it. And you can't just go seeking to press that button at any unrealized fear. And that's where I think the root of panic attacks and anxiety really comes into play, is that thought right there of unrealized fear that we take into consideration and make it more real than it actually is. So if we can guard ourselves against that button and envision, I call it I'm a nerd. I like video games, and I don't play as much as I used to, but that game Clash of Clans, my son had me play, and there was a character in there called a Pika, and it's like a samurai warrior that is fully metal plated with spikes, and he looks like a football player, samurai, heavily armored, with a huge sword. And that's what I envision kind of protecting my panic button in my mind, because all too often we let that get pushed. So even to the nerdy effect of upgrading your warrior, your protector, I envision that one specifically over my panic button. I just this morning on my drive, I've never really envisioned the beast before, but I was just feeling slightly anxious, just because, again, I don't really like the thought of being in a tree stand and coming down with a temperature or COVID or having a cough. And every little tickle in my throat this week, every little, chest tightening, I would think, oh, am I getting sick? And your mind, your subconscious it is designed to react to those thoughts that you put to it. So if you put thoughts that aren't real, it doesn't know the difference. It's just like a robot that hits that button and releases chemicals into your brain, and then there is no time there's nothing really to fight, and there's nothing to run from other than yourself, your mind, and then you start to just feel crappy. You feel cloudy. I think it has so much to do with the chemicals that are released in your brain, but it's a chain reaction that's released because of the thoughts that you are putting to it. And it's an evolutionary design, and our brains are over evolved to react that way to protect ourselves. And we have to, in some ways, unevolve our brains, because the more that we allow it to, I also envision the scanner in my mind, and I look at it like a radio Doppler kind of, in a way. It's scanning. We're built, our minds, our bodies are built to scan for danger, and that's how we survive. That's how we've gotten to this point as humans, and we have let ourselves in today's society associate too many things with danger that aren't really danger. And so our scanners are overactive. They are working overtime. They are looking for anything and everything that could potentially be considered as dangerous, and it's tripping our wire. It's allowing that panic button to be hit. And if we don't build up our mental defenses, our pikas, our samurais, our warriors, our beasts, our armies, and then we are defeated. Our mind is defeated. We let that those stress chemicals dump into our brain. It's just on autopilot, and then there's nothing we can do about it. It's a snowball effect. And some people that don't really deal with anxiety, I don't really know. It's got to be something in our DNA. It's got to be something in how we were brought up. I think a lot of it has to do with just the environment, nature versus nurture, but I think it's both. So people that don't really deal with those issues, I think there's not a whole lot of, I can't really explain that other than the fact that they probably do to some extent. It just presents itself differently, and those people might have better coping skills. Whereas other people, they let those triggers continue to go off and continue to run their life, and then to the point where the only way they can fight it is through medication. Now, I had to fight it initially through medication because I didn't know how to deal with it. I went on Lexapro when I started having panic attacks, and it helped me. It did help me for a while. I went to a psychiatrist. She assigned or prescribed some Xanax as well. I still have that bottle from 7 years ago. I never really did want to take it. I've only taken it from very, very few times whenever I felt the need. It's a little bit stubborn. It is. I know that. My wife tells me all the time, if you feel that way, but to just take it. But I have this real deep desire to mentally and holistically manage my anxiety, because I think that there is a way to do it, and I know there's a way to do it, and it has a lot to do with the mental picture you have of your subconscious in your brain. And if you can envision the negative thoughts and envision, I almost see it like, your subconscious, there's all these evil ninjas from the dark matter that it exists in this universe, that are fed by negative thoughts. So they get stronger and grow bigger, and they just totally outnumber the ones that are good, the positive soldiers that are fed by positive thoughts. And so how do you stop feeding it? Well, here's some ways that I stop feeding it. One of them is through meditation, the tactic of noting. Yes, I have that thought. It's noted. Okay, that's it. I brush it away with the feather. That the app Headspace has actually given me some really good mental visions of how to deal with it. That you have to put training into it. You have to put training into your health, your mental health. It's not just going to happen by itself. Being around negative people, bad. Run from it. The other things that really feed the anxiety and the fear is letting those bad thoughts. Whenever you feel anxious, I look at it like a balloon. If you feel anxiety with those thoughts, it'll just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. If you feel that balloon, that you envision it as this massive big bubble, if you don't feed it, if you don't put anything into it, it doesn't grow. If you don't blow air into a balloon, it's just a floppy piece of rubber. So it's so easy to, when you feel anxious, feel like you need to do something. I have to do something right now to fix this. And so that's where kind of panic comes into play. What do I do? I don't know what to do. I feel like I need to do something right now to relieve it. Oftentimes what it is you just have to write it out. Okay, I feel anxious. Noted. Nothing's wrong. There is no fear in front of me. There is no bear chasing me. There is no lion. There is no wolf. There is no fire. There is no disease. There is nothing. I mean, right here, I'm driving in front of me, and there is nothing in front of me but road, and I can breathe. That's another thing that I learned in meditation is body scanning. And when you do that, you recognize everything is functioning as it's supposed to be. My heart is pumping. My brain is thinking. I am not starving. I have all of my needs met. And that's a problem, though, and that's, I think, also what creates anxiety, is that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when all those things are met, the brain, it's designed to continually try and meet those and problem solve. At least mine is. And I am very highly driven towards problem solving. And when I can't solve problems, I get anxious. When I can't figure things out, when I don't know the why. And I have to remember, okay, 10,000 years ago, my ancestors they didn't know anything, literally. They probably knew They probably know 1/1000th of what I know about how the universe behaves and the laws of science and nature. I mean, I'm literally like a god, like a genius compared to our early ancestors. And so they had to figure out very basic things, and it was all day long. It consumed them. It took a long time to figure out how to hunt and kill an animal. It wasn't just like go to your fridge and pick something out and eat. So their brains were more, in a way, engaged and active than ours are. And we start to feel anxious and when all of our needs are met. We don't have to worry about shelter. We don't have to worry about food. We don't have to worry about the basic things that you need to live. They're already provided for us. So our minds have evolved to transform those evolutionary desires that we have in our brain into work, into kids, into responsibility, into obligation. And so now those are the things that stress us out. There is no, on a day-to-day basis, there is no threat of another village attacking you and having to be ready for war. And I'm digressing a little bit and kind of rambling, getting off my point. But what I'm really trying to say is that we cannot feed. We have to realize where our minds came from, and we cannot feed the negative side. We have to look at it like it is a evolutionary puzzle, and we are too smart for our own good sometimes. We know too much. Dumb things down. Look in front of you. Everything's okay. Don't feed the beast. Don't feed the negative beast. He will run rampant. He will tear apart and bite the heads off of every positive thought that comes in your mind. You know, I had this illustration in my mind of that character from Lord of the Rings. Oh, the one that talks about his precious. I'm totally going blank on it, but and I envisioned that little wrinkly piece of crap in my mind sending off negative vibes. So I put to work a machine in my brain that's kind of like a forklift / excavator, really, and went on a search party to find him and picked him up and moved him out of my mind and basically destroyed him, crushed him, tore him up, shredded him, whatever. And I think that visualization really helps your mind cope with reality. You know, even though you're going into a fantasy land, in your mind you're doing something. So that, going back to what I was saying earlier, of you feel like you need to do something, I did something in my mind. I actively sought out the negative thoughts and expunged them. And I think that it does something. It's cathartic for whatever subconscious exists in your mind. I imagine it like another person, another human in there that's just kind of lost, and it can only take orders from you, basically, and your thoughts. And it can't operate on its own. It's like a slave to your thoughts, your subconscious. And so he is obedient. He will do whatever your thoughts tell it. If you tell it that you're in danger, he's going to go press the panic button. Well, if you've built up your fortress, he's got to get through that first, right? And your fortress is designed to know what's actual danger and what's not. You have to evolve your evolutionary instinct, because before it's designed to, very simple, you know, God, the creator, however we got here, designed our mind to think danger, panic button. Pretty simple. I can't really teach a primate how to comprehend anything different. It's the same with sex and procreation. I can't really I'm talking as God. I can't really explain to a primate or have them innately know how to procreate. So I'm just going to put this in their DNA and program them to have uncontrollable urges to have fornication, to fornicate. And pretty simple. I need them to procreate. Boom. Programming. Man, when he hits puberty, starts getting all sorts of urges, and every woman he sees, he wants to procreate with, and he has that urge. So it's the same with danger. Very basic programming. Danger, fight or flight. And so we have to understand that in our minds. And you can think of it two ways. You can under-evolve it because it's now we've taken it to something that it shouldn't be, or you can re-evolve it and turn it into something that is applicable to today's world, because so many things can be seen as danger, and that process is hard, and it can take a long time. But for me, it started with 100% knowing I was healthy. So I went to the doctor because I don't want to say a hypochondriac, but I'm very aware of my mortality. I don't know if it's because my dad died at an early age and I'm just very aware of it. But when there's things wrong with my body, I tend to sometimes overreact, and I've had to train myself to not do that. But whenever I was at the height of my panic attacks, which I haven't had in a very, very long time, because I've learned that's a big thing about it. When you get anxious, if you just let it roll and you feed it and feed it and feed it, you will have a panic attack. But if you don't feed it, you won't have a panic attack. You just might feel icky, and you have to ride it out. But going back to what I was saying is, when I knew for sure that I didn't have heart issues or cancer, or I got a physical, I felt better. I knew that when I had chest tightening that it wasn't going to be a heart attack. I was very low risk. So that's the thing that can help you. Don't smoke, don't drink excessively, and you'll have more confidence that if you do have chest pains, that it's just physical reaction to stress or anxiety. It's not actual heart attack or an actual something that's going to hurt you. So realizing that is a very big key. And then, I do things like I drink a lot of water whenever I start to feel that way. Again, kind of a visualization of just washing out any of the ick, any of the unhealthy toxins in my body. Hydrating. When I am not hydrated, I feel icky. If I drink too much the night before and I put coffee in my body immediately and jumpstart it, I'll start to feel anxious. You just have to be not everybody is built the same. I know my body, and I've learned to, and I don't always do it right, but I do it way better than I used to. But I've learned how my body reacts to things. I can't do psychedelic drugs. No, doesn't work. So don't do it. I can't even really do. I very rarely can even smoke pot without feeling anxious, because I just have so much responsibility on my mind that I can't relax. So don't put yourselves in situations that make you feel anxious. Relationships, for one. That's a big one. Don't engage. Press pause. Read that book, Above the Line by Urban Meyer. It's so good. You have to, again, train your brain. But whenever I get really mad and people that I love, I fight with them, that creates a lot of anxiety for me and stress, and that creates physical symptoms. So I have had to learn, and it is very tough, to disengage, even though you want to fight, even though you want to argue, you want to tell them how you feel and that they're wrong. And when you engage in those behaviors with people you love, I can't think of another bigger stressor in my life. Whether it's my wife or my brother or my sisters or my mom or my friends or my boss or anybody. I can't take it when I feel like there's animosity between us. So whenever something's happening to where I can feel those tensions rise, I don't engage. I can't say I never do, because I still do sometimes, but I've learned to realize that jumping into the fire, it just creates it's a fight. That's that fight reaction, not the flight. You're in the fight, and it creates physical stress, and it affects your stomach, and that's a huge thing I've learned as well. Your gut is so important to your mind, so you have to eat healthy. You have to eat fruits and vegetables, and I kind of have a sweet tooth. I do, but I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, and I try to get in a rhythm where my bowel movements are regular, and they happen almost the same time every day. And I know that when that stops working, I need to change some of my habits. And then exercise. Every time I start to feel really icky, I think back and I think, when is the last time you actually had a good sweat, a good cardio? And man, it is so true. In my mind, it is so true. Cardio and getting your heart pumping and exercise is one of the very best things you can do for stress relief, and just releasing those chemicals. And again, it's you can't go into your brain and go, okay, release I think it's dopamine, or release cortisone. That's the stress hormone. It just does it by what the senses and the stimuli that you encounter. Your brain reacts to it. So you have to figure out what those are. You have to figure out the keys, the patterns, to unlocking those. And I visualize like these workers in my brain trying to get to those good hormones, and they're locked. It's a lockbox. They just can't do it. They're working like busy bees in my mind, and I haven't given them the keys. I haven't given them the stimuli. Then it's like I was listening to music on my way up here. Music is a huge one. So it's like music and those stimuli, they create the neural pathways that help your workers unleash those good hormones. And the bad people, the bad thoughts, the gremlins, the demons in your mind, they have those same neurological pathways they work off of. And when they light up, that's what feeds them. And so those stress hormones take over. So it's a battle between good and evil in your mind. And I think that battle extends all the way out to the real universe. And I could go on for hours about that. That's really what the next book I want to write is about. But why did I do this video? A, because it's cathartic for me. So another thing to help with stress, you have to get it out. You have to talk it out, whether it's with people, whether it's with counselors. I went to counseling when I was in the height, whenever I was having panic attacks, I went to counseling. I think expressing yourself artistically is a big thing. That's why I love playing the guitar. So all of these things, my channel that I have right now is about outdoors and guitars and Gleason strings and outdoors, but it has helped shape my mental health and helping my anxiety. That's why I wanted to make this video. It all ties together. Playing the guitar, getting those neural pathways in your brain to connect. It does something for those good workers in your brain, those angels in your brain that allows them to do work. It awakens them, and it makes you feel good. Same with exercise, same with sex. That's why I think that a good sexual relationship is so important in a marriage. And when you forget about those things, the demons take over, and they can be very hard to remove. So if you're there, you might need to start with some medication to help. But then I slowly weaned myself off Lexapro because I knew there was a way to do it holistically. And eventually I got to the point, I haven't taken it for 6 years probably. And every once in a while, I just always have a little backup in my car. And when I travel, I always have a backup. It's kind of like a safety net, Xanax. And I really have only ever have to take it like once or twice a year. And I usually take a half of one, and it's like 0.5 milligrams or whatever the smallest dosage is. I don't even know if it works anymore. It's been around so old, so it might be like a placebo. And so I have that safety net if I ever get so bad that I have to do that. But I just think that mental health is so important, and I want to be able to help people that have had the same problems I had. But I realize that, for instance, my YouTube channel, it's probably never going to go viral as long as I keep putting out different content that's not one-dimensional. Because every YouTube channel that's viral that I've seen, it's one thing, hunting, one thing, fishing, one thing, guitar. But I guess this is really more for me, and if anybody sees this and it can help them, even if it's one person, great. I could go on and on with the things that I've created in my mind to help build my mental fortress up. But to summarize, know that you're healthy. Go see a doctor. Get a physical. Take that one off the plate. Eat healthy. Don't put too many carcinogens in your body. Exercise. Build up mental visualizations in your mind that protect your fight or flight panic button. Learn how to meditate. Very important. And I don't do it enough, but that's why I love to hunt, because it forces me to. I'm sitting in a stand. Develop great relationships, and don't engage when they start to go bitter. Don't engage in yelling and screaming and cussing and saying things you don't want to say to people, and saying hurtful things and they say it to you. Don't do it. When you start to feel that, back away. Be passionate about, get some hobbies. Learn how to learn how to express yourself artistically, whether it's with music or writing or painting. Another thing I haven't really talked about a whole lot in this video, but is a big part of my life, is wrestling and coaching people. And in my career, I coach people. In wrestling, I coach people, helping people grow, helping them get better. You know, that is cathartic to me. It helps me get better. And I'm sure I'm missing a couple that I talked about, but those are the big ones. Control your gut. Make sure your gut's in the right place. And there's, serotonin is linked to your gut and your brain, and that can, when that's out of whack, that's when you can feel anxious. So, and see a doctor and use medication if you need to get through the tough times and get over the hump to where you can manage it holistically, because you can. But you might need some help to start off, and see a counselor if you need to. But I hope that I was able to help somebody that might have those types of, whether you have mild or severe or even just acute anxiety, to do it in a more organic way. All right, I'm almost to my hunting spot, so get up in the woods, get out in the woods and do some meditation. It's good for the soul.